You're tuned in to Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP.
.31 is the time right now in the Delaware Valley Temple Sports Hour here for another half hour before Stadium Talk takes over. And great vibes going on in the city of brotherly love right now. The Flyers exercise the demons at Madison Square Garden. They beat the Rangers on the 10th try as a charm, apparently, and they even this series at 1 game apiece. And we're joined now by Keith Jones, Flyers color commentator. Keith, thanks so much for being on with us.
No problem, guys. Happy to be on with you.
And we just brought up how they just broke the streak at Madison Square Garden. They go into Game 3 now tied, and Wayne Simmons said that's where they want to be going into this. Keith, how confident are you in this team to move on and make a push in this series?
Well, I'm a lot more confident now that they stole the game in New York. I don't think for much of the game that the Flyers played as well as they can, so I don't think we've seen their A game yet, and that's good news. I think it's important that the hometown crowd gets behind them and brings their energy level to another or to a higher octave. They haven't been there yet, and they're going to have to be if they're going to beat this Rangers team. So far, the Rangers, for the most part, have looked like the better team.
And you brought up a good point saying that they haven't maybe brought out their best game yet. In Game 2, they were outshot. They lost more faceoffs. They iced the puck more. They commit more penalties. And Claude Giroux didn't even have one shot on goal, but yet they find a way to win the game. So going forward in this series, do you feel good about yourself and say everything that probably could have went wrong, and we won? Or do you say maybe the broken clock was right twice in the day, and that was the only time this is going to work out?
Well, I think you want to try to build off of the positives that came out of the last game. One of them was the defense were more active. Luke Shen ended up scoring that goal, which was a real intelligent play on his part, recognizing that the Rangers had a delayed penalty. And as soon as they would touch the puck, of course, the whistle would go. So he got aggressive, and he drove to the net and ends up scoring the eventual game-winning goal. I thought Braden Colburn did a better job of pushing the pace and trying to create some offensive chances, and a chance in alone on Henrik Lundqvist that was stopped. That's kind of the stuff that they want to continue to press and try to find ways to create offensive chances against a pretty stingy Rangers team. And the Rangers have possessed the puck a lot more than the Flyers. Those face-off statistics would tell me that that's part of the deal. Winning draws can really help you in maintaining some puck possession. The Flyers need to do a better job of that. And more importantly, they need to skate better. And I think that's something that being back in Philadelphia, kind of getting the monkey out their back in New York, should give them a lot of momentum going into Game 3. And for anyone that has been to a Flyers game at home, it's a pretty fun environment to play in. So I would expect them to be much better in Game number 3.
And speaking of momentum, Steve Mason just ruled out that he will not be playing in Game 3 because he's not quite ready. Ray Emery was on fire the last 50 minutes, doesn't let up a goal. How confident are you as a backup goaltender that he can come in and make a difference even in Game 3? Or do you feel like his luck or backup goaltending strong play might run out here soon?
No, I don't think so. I think he's really battled hard, and last game should do a lot for his confidence moving forward. I think the Rangers are trying to get him to have to move post to post, and the first 2 goals that they scored were terrific passes that he couldn't get across in time to stop. That's how they will game plan. The one disadvantage you have is they've had 2 good looks at Emery and should have a pretty good look on exactly what they're going up against. There'll be no surprises from New York's standpoint. But what he does best is fight and battle. And his teammates appreciate that and respect that. So I'm not overly upset that he's going to be starting in Game 3. There is a 2-day break in between games again before Game 4. And hopefully that's sufficient time for Mason to get back and be feeling 100% before he jumps into the playoff mix. There's no question there's a different level to playoff hockey, and Mason's going to have to be sharp to be able to beat the Rangers.
And you brought up Mason possibly coming back for Game 4. Just playing the hypothetical game a little bit. Let's say Emery plays all right. They win the game, but it wasn't his best stuff. Do you throw Mason in Game 4? All of a sudden, you're getting deep in a tough playoff series, and like you said, he hasn't really had a whole lot of playoff experience. Would you throw him in, or would you just stay with Emery?
Well, it depends on if they lose. I would put in as long as he was healthy. And if they win, I would stay with Emery. You can always go back to your starting goaltender at some point. But a lot of it would be predicated upon how he played at Emery, that is, in game number 3. But if they lost the game, maybe it's a 2-1 loss, I still would jump back with Mason. If he wins it, I don't care if it's 6-5 or 8-7, then Emery would be back in goal. For me, it's all about wins and losses in the playoffs and finding a way to do that. But after a loss, I would definitely make the change if Mason was good to go.
Keith Jones joining us right now. Keith, we're all feeling pretty good as Flyers fans right now. They won in New York. They've got that monkey, as you alluded to, off their back. What did Craig Berube do from Game 1 to Game 2 that you think helped the Flyers gain some success?
He slowed things down. I thought through the neutral zone they did a better job of kind of getting in the way of the Rangers, especially as the game moved along. The third period was probably their best at disrupting the Rangers' flow. They showed that if they get the lead, they can play well with the lead. I thought some of their best hockey happened after Luke Schenn's goal. And a lot of that was just adjustments through the neutral zone of slowing things down and kind of bringing the Rangers down to the level that the Flyers were playing at themselves. I don't think the Flyers have played with a lot of energy yet. I do think this series has kind of set up schedule-wise where there's a lot of time to get your energy back based on the amount of rest we're getting between games. And I would expect the home crowd to push the Flyers to another level. New York's going to be in for a different game in game number 3 just based upon the home ice advantage of playing at the Wells Fargo Center.
And Claude Giroux didn't even register a shot on goal yesterday, although the top line looked a lot better. How would you evaluate the captain's performance so far?
It's been okay. I mean, there's obviously a lot of different levels for Giroux to get to. I thought Voracek played well and used his speed against McDonough. It's no easy task against McDonough and Girardi. Now, they've eaten Alexander Ovechkin alive over the last couple of years in playoff matchups. What Giroux has to do and continue to do is to distract and attract a lot of attention, which he's going to do, which should open up more room for players like Voracek and Hartnell, and should open up more room for players on the other lines. A lot of eyes on the Rangers bench will be on Giroux, and sometimes being a superstar player, that's the way it is. You make sacrifices for the team's success. At times it's going to cost you some individual stats. I think he's done a good job of that. I think he has to be better. And power play situations are certainly an area where Giroux should be able to find some open space. And he's got to start thinking shoot first again. Passing too much so far through the first 2 games. But at home, I think we're in for a different story.
And the Flyers now take control. They technically have home ice advantage now moving through this series. Keith, how do you see this series playing out? Do you think the Flyers are going to finish the job?
I really don't know. I would love to tell you that they will, but based upon what I've seen in the first couple of games, the Rangers have looked like the better team. That could all change at the Wells Fargo Center in game number 3. It's all about, to me, the energy level with which the Flyers play with. I haven't seen it at that high level it was at going back about 3 or 4 weeks ago. They've got to get back to that game. If they do, they'll win the series. If they don't, the Rangers will continue to get more chances and eventually break through, and New York will be celebrating. Flyers definitely have a chance to do it, but they have to show me more than they have in the first couple of games.
Putting you on the spot for a second, what is your prediction? How do you think this series will end?
I don't really have... I've looked at this thing in a lot of different ways. If I was sitting there and someone had a gun to my head, I would tell you that the Rangers, based upon the way they've dominated at home for the most part, and the way that they have played for the first 2 games of this series, and much of the way they played at the end of the season, would be the better team. Does that translate into wins? I'm not sure. I'd feel better for the Flyers if Steve Mason was available. I think he handles the puck better and alleviates pressure on the forecheck. So I guess the health of Mason is kind of going to be what decides it for me. I'm real hopeful he's back for Game 4, and there's enough time for the Flyers to get the job done.
All right, Jonesy, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Take care, guys.
That was Keith Jones on the line with us, and